So I hope it's okay with everybody, so that at least we can share with those who are not able to join today. Secondly, kindly mute your microphone when you are not speaking. If you wish to speak, use the raise hand function. We'll give you the platform to speak. And please feel free to post your questions or comments in the chat box. And lastly, on the housekeeping notes, let's remain mindful of cultural difference and use respective inclusive language throughout the session today. Lastly, let me introduce today the moderators or facilitators. We'll start with Khalid Bita, who is the president of the International Organization for Cooperation and Evaluation, and also the co-chair of Eval Partners. Then we also have Dr. Ian Goldman, the president of the International Evaluation Academy, M&E specialist advisor with the South African presidents, and the international advisor on evaluation, M&E, and evidence system. Without wasting much of our time, let me pass over to Khali to take us over today's session. Khali, the floor is yours, and over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Innocent. And thanks to you and Eval for Earth for hosting the event and for the great effort and work you put into coordinating everything. Very warm welcome, colleagues joining us today for this special webinar on the three horizon approach to transformational change of the evaluation field. A great work led by the International Evaluation Academy and supported by Eval partners and all the partners collaborating during these sessions and beyond. My name is Khalil Bitar. I am the president of IUCE, the network of national and regional evaluation associations and societies, and co-chair of Eval Partners, a partnership between IUCE, UN agencies, and several other partners and stakeholders in our field. The objective of this webinar, as well as another that we will have tomorrow earlier in the day with colleagues from other regions, is to raise awareness about the three horizon work with all of you as members of the evaluation community, and to help inform together the direction of the future of this important work and really our field overall. We have colleagues and evaluation leaders who have done fantastic work. They will be sharing the revised maps they have developed using the three horizons methodology, which outlines the current situation in the evaluation field, that is Horizon 1, what is currently now, the future that the evaluation field aspires to in addressing the polycrisis, which is the focus of the International Evaluation Academy, that is Horizon 3, and then in between them is Horizon 2, which is the steps to get there. So very important framework. In the session, we will start identifying existing transformational initiatives that all of us can build on to take the work forward. Also linked to the newly launched Global Evaluation Agenda, which Eval Partners worked collaboratively on, including with the Academy, and was launched last month, a few days ago, actually. I will provide a link to the agenda in the chat. This is the beginning of a significant collaborative effort to work on these very critical issues together. We have for you today a well-structured program featuring a mix of both presentations and group work, because we really would like to hear from you. First, we begin with Ian Kendrick from the Academy, a Three Horizons expert, who will provide a brief introduction to the Three Horizon approach. So this is really very important presentation to understand where we are and what exactly are the Three Horizons. Then we have three colleagues who will each introduce one of the Three Horizons, namely Ada Okambo, president of Ideas International, will introduce Horizon 1. Sibongoli Sethole, a young and emerging evaluator from the South African Monitoring and Evaluation Association, SAMIA, will introduce the work on Horizon 3, and Andrelisa Pelser, President-elect of the Academy and Treasurer of IUC and Eval Partners, will present the critical work on Horizon 2, which is central to work we'd like to achieve together today, starting identifying together existing transformational initiatives we can build on. Then we will have a reflection session using Mentimeter, facilitated by the President of the Academy, Ian Goldman, who I thank for his leadership in this vital work for the Academy and really for our evaluation field overall. After that, we will hear from Zenda Ofer, a distinguished leader in our field and champion, longtime champion for transformative evaluation. Then that will help us consider how to identify transformational initiatives, what characteristics we should look at, very important. Then we will delve into this work together in groups facilitated by Ian and Kendrick again, and a group of esteemed evaluators from different evaluation associations and organizations will split into groups, work together, and then come back and hear from everybody. We will have about 30 minutes for this important work together. So a considerable part of the session today is really working together. And before we conclude in the end, we will discuss some feedback and outline next steps, which is very important for us to move this work forward. Thank you very much. I look forward to this very important session. And now I welcome Ian Kendrick. Ian, the floor is yours. You're muted.
I've just realized I'm on mute. Good start. Hi, everybody. I'm going to take us through this thing called Three Horizons. Before I do that, Three Horizons is thought of initially as a futures thinking approach, but it's actually more than that. But there are 4 different approaches to futures thinking. Ian, if you can click a couple of times, please, that'd be great. And again, please. So what we're going to do is look at the agency that we have versus the uncertainty that we're facing. Now, some futures thinking says other people have much more agency. They're going to make the world the way they're going to make it, and we're going to have to survive in it. Click, please, Ian, if you would. Again, and again, again. So the bottom left here is when your uncertainty is low. You know what it's going to be like, but you haven't got much agency, and all you do is forecasts. 10% more than last year. Above that is roadmaps where you have got agency. This is what software companies do and tell you what their next software is going to be like. And bottom right is strategic scenario work where other people have agency and you're going to have to survive in the world, however it turns out to be. Three Horizons is about top right, where we're looking to envision a future that we would like to bring into being. We call it an aspirational future. And it's about helping to improve your agency to help that future come into being. Next slide, please, Ian. Thank you. How do we think in Three Horizons? Horizon 1, we look at its fitness for purpose, what it's doing right now, and it's degrading over time. If we don't change, Horizon 1 will eventually lose its relevance for the environment. What we're looking for is to change that, and that's about Horizon 3. We'll come to Horizon 2 in a moment. Horizon 3 is the future we would like to envision, where the issues we see in our current Horizon 1 have been addressed, typically 10 years out. Next, please. The transformational journey between those 2 horizons. Horizon 1 is where are we? Horizon 3 is where are we trying to get to? And Horizon 2 is the really big question, how are we going to get there? So we do Horizons 1 and 3 to frame how we are going to get there. Yes, please, Ian. We have Horizon 2 initiatives. Those initiatives that are trying to transform out of Horizon 1 towards Horizon 3. H2 minus initiatives are those that we think are not actually capable of doing that, and they get captured by Horizon 1. They may get captured by Horizon 1 for Horizon 1 just to prolong its life. They'll have that, thank you very much, and that can make Horizon 1 last a bit longer, or simply to close it down because they see it as competing with Horizon 1. Next. What we're looking for is Horizon 2 plus initiatives that actually have the ability to help us transform out of Horizon 1 and into Horizon 3. And Zenda will explore more deeply later on about what we think the aspects that help a Horizon 2 plus initiative to be exactly what we want it to be. Able to maintain its existence, not get absorbed by Horizon 1 and so on. On the left-hand side, we've got that grey bar. Go for it, Ian. The grey bar is like a time slice. And again, there you go. This is a time slice going through the 3 horizons. The reason we're pointing it out is that all 3 horizons are present all the time. This is not sequential. Horizon 2 comes after Horizon 1, Horizon 3 comes after Horizon 2. So right now, the green line of Horizon 3 says there are some aspects of Horizon 3 that are present in our world right now. And we call those little pockets of the future in the present. They might be insecure, they might not be very strong, but they're showing the way forward in some way. Next, please. Okay, this is the process we followed. We issued a survey online to around 100 selected participants. We got 39 responses who between them generated 1,300 individual responses, which is a lot of data to work with. A core team of 18 analysts were used to actually look at those 1,300 responses and cluster them and group them into common areas so that we could start to see the overall pattern of what's happening in Horizon 1. We then took another step out. Here are the process steps. Let's show it as a picture. Go. Again, please, Ian. Here is the first step is the actual survey itself. The left-hand side, respondent 11 said this. I don't expect you to be able to read the text. The middle box is what we did with ChatGPT. Silva Ferretti, who works with us, is just brilliant at stewarding and steering AI here. AI split that response into two separate statements to make it more simple to work with. The right-hand column is whereas human beings looked at what ChatGPT had said and said, yes, we can use that, or we'd like to tweak it a little bit and what have you. Step 2, which you can see on the screen, is where we actually start to cluster those 1,300 responses together. The arrow leads to a particular little square around the first circle, because that is where that response, Horizon 1 question 1 R11B, is on the actual map itself. So those are two clusters that came out of this question with those two responses. Next one, please, Ian. Now what happens is we take those two clusters, and again, please, we take those two clusters and go the next step out. This is looking at the overall responses to this first question. Yep, so that's what it looks like there. It's a systems map, which shows the interactions between these groups of clusters. So we got the questions, we clustered them into, and then we take those clusters and, as it were, cluster the clusters and zoom out, but still maintaining the pattern and still maintaining every response that we had. Next one, please, Ian. Step 4 is to then look at the overall, the overall pattern of the whole of the three of Horizon. This is just still Horizon 1 we're looking at, the pattern for Horizon 1. Next one, please, Ian. And that, thank you, that's great, yeah. That shows where that little cluster in the step 4 goes into the overall map, because that map that you see above 4 is great if you actually help to make it, but very difficult to communicate. What you want to do is something easier to communicate, and that's what the maps are that we use. Next step, please, Ian. Let's look at an overview of what we got. Let's just look first of all at Horizon 1. The overall theme that emerged out of all of those 1,300 responses when they were put into Horizon 1 context is evaluation is not effective in addressing or voicing the deepening polycrisis and the transformations required. 3 Horizons sometimes surfaces things which are difficult to face. Horizon 3, 10 years out, when we've addressed the issues in Horizon 1, now, and we always say talk in the present tense when you're talking about the future. All evaluation contributes to transforming social ecological systems and towards a just and regenerating planet. How are we going to get there? Horizon 2. What we see in Horizon 2 is that people engaged with or inspired by evaluation are leading and taking the power to change the evaluation field to transform social ecological systems for a just and regenerating planet. Next one, please, Ian. So what we're going to do now is talk you through these 3 maps of these 3 horizons. These are the folks who are going to do that for us. Over to you.
Good morning. Thanks very much, Ian. As I have been already introduced, my name is Ado Campo, and I'm the president of the International Development Evaluation Association, IDEAS. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Horizon 1. As it has been mentioned before, it's a map that shows the interactions, the complementarity, the driving forces, the contributors to the situation we are facing now. And the Horizon 1 has been done through survey questions that took into account valuable elements, as what are the key aspects, is evaluation fully equipped, what led us here, talking about beliefs, approaches, events, dynamics, etc., and the current trends. And as Ian has mentioned, the main theme that, the main conclusion, the mega conclusion that arised from this important survey is that evaluation is not effective in addressing or voicing the the deepening polycrisis and the transformations required. So based on this, we will see that what the survey has revealed is probably some things that we already knew, but the map will show the interactions, the driving forces, and the contributors, and we will see how these aspects not only complement but reinforce each other. So we have domination of deep embedded systems, exploitative worldview systems, especially a reductionist approach. We have a funder-driven and vulnerable systems of evaluation, and power inequality, where we have insufficient understanding and awareness of structural inequalities related to gender and intersectional dimensions. I would like to emphasize here that we are mainly talking about human rights, and I think it goes beyond. It's important to highlight gender, to highlight indigenous voices, but in the situation that we are living now, especially in the political crisis, there are many other groups that are being silent, that are in danger, including religious groups, LGBTX communities, etc. So these are domination, deep embedded systems are the driving forces to understand the situation we are facing now, where evaluation is not effective in addressing the falling crisis, and also the emphasis on accountability that is weakening learning. Accountability is important, especially when we're talking about dealing with the government, making the government accountable. But we cannot forget the dimension of learning, because that will allow us to evolve, to grow, and to really address the need of addressing effective evaluation. Next, please. We have management and policy integration. It's the fact that evaluation is not being used to inform or to fit into the policy management cycle. And that is important, and that also affects to the effectiveness of evaluation. Next, please. If you can go 2 or 3. So there is a critical dilemma or a tension between rigor and timeliness. So we want to do rigorous evaluation, but it takes a long, long time to have the results, and we might miss the importance of influences key milestones in policy decision making. So this critical dilemma contributes to the policy integration, but at the same time, it leads to an effective evaluation for addressing the polycrisis. We also have indigenous rights and local power. As we mentioned before, these indigenous rights and local power, it's important. We need to really reinforce the voice, empower the voice of marginalized groups and local community if we really want to change this funder-driven and vulnerable evaluation that is not addressing effectively the polycrisis. Continue, please. We also have the post-truth politics that weakens the demand for evidence and for evaluation, and also for and also weakens the potential, the transformational potential and social equity. So this also weakens is weakening the interest on evaluation and science, and also weakens the possibility of empowering and raising the voice or addressing indigenous rights and local power. We also have the complex systems understanding. So we have a situation where understanding the complex systems is not in a point that evaluation should be, and there is a need to understand the complex systems if we want to understand the polycrisis. So as we said, all these elements reinforce each other, and we have a situation that we go now to the competencies of evaluators. Evaluation values, competencies, and practices need to be reinforced, especially with evaluation values and positionality. We have, as it has been mentioned before, inadequate use of methods, critical thinking and theoretical skills, and the importance of inclusion of technology. I would say that all of us lead also to something important, is that the importance of a competence of a situation where the evaluators are able to understand and analyze the polycrisis. So, and this means addressing different dimensions: social, political, environmental, economic, and not only some of them. So this map reflects the interactions. I think it has been very well done, and we will continue the discussion. Thank you very much.
So Ada said good morning, but on my end it's good afternoon. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, depending wherever you are in the world. So like I said, for my end, it's good afternoon. Just to introduce myself, my name is Sibongile. I've been part and parcel of the maps that we are presenting today since last year, and I'll be presenting Horizon 3. And as mentioned earlier by ENK, Horizon 3 is looking at the aspirational future. So what we're hoping the future looks like after we've addressed the concerns and challenges that Ada has mentioned from Horizon 1. So from the survey that ENK spoke about that we conducted last year, some of the questions we're looking at what the evaluation field looks like or feels like now that we've addressed the challenges that were mentioned in Horizon 1. And then one of, I think, very key question was the pockets of the future in the present. So what we're seeing now that we feel can support or assist us to experience the aspirational future that we would want to have in the next 10 years. So the overarching consensus based on the survey results that we got, we're saying that in the next 10 years, evaluation contributes to transforming socio-ecological systems towards a just and regenerating planet. Now, I'm just going to focus on the clusters, so please don't worry much about the arrows. They basically show the interconnectedness of the cluster that I'll be speaking about, but I will not address that because of time. So the first cluster, for us to get to the just and regenerating planet, we're saying evaluation is addressing the polycrisis systemically and systematically, being used across policy and organizational cycles, and it is also valued by wider society. And we're saying that as evaluation as a practice, it continuously evolves, and it is also well integrated in policy and organizational cycles, which then leads to an improved decision making. The next cluster, it speaks about evaluation, honoring Indigenous peoples, local communities, and nature as rights holders. As we all know, especially in the development space, we always speak about marginalized communities, and you find that in most cases, Indigenous people or local communities are often excluded or neglected when it comes to decision making or when it comes to evaluation processes. And we're saying in the next 10 years, local communities or Indigenous people are a key part of decision making. They're also heavily involved in the evaluation processes. One aspect I think is also quite key, that I do think is a major contribution to why we're experiencing the polycrisis, is our constant exclusion or the neglect of nature as part of society. In most cases, when we're talking about society or community, we tend to ignore or neglect that nature is also part of society. So most of the decisions that we've made, in most cases, they've been beneficial to humans and not so much nature. So we're saying that in the next 10 years, evaluation is able to respect and acknowledge nature as part, as a rights holder. Next one, Ian. The next cluster speaks about the re-centralization of power, justice, and voice. Now, we all know that we are currently experiencing extreme and major power imbalances, whether we're talking about the global north or the global south, or we're talking about donor or funder vulnerabilities. We are experiencing those extremities. One very good example is South Africa. We still face the dire consequences of the power imbalances of imperialism and colonialism, hence why we still have the highest Gini coefficient in the world. So we're saying in the next 10 years, evaluation can be utilized as a tool to challenge these power structures, that equity is embedded in evaluation. In that way, it is used to challenge, to criticize, and even highlight any forms of discrimination, any forms of inequities or inequalities. The next one, it speaks of evaluation being technically, okay, I'll just wait for it to come out. We're talking about evaluation being technically, politically, and strategically adept for a time of transformation. In the next 10 years, we're obviously saying that evaluation is able to embed or to incorporate the various innovations that we're currently experiencing. As we all know that we're living in a fast-paced world, it's almost every day that we get to find out there's a new technology, new innovation. Just yesterday, I was reading how they said Microsoft have now developed new AI that can potentially replace human doctors. And I do think as evaluation practice or evaluation field, it will be inane for us to ignore these new technologies, these new innovations. So it would be important to incorporate these new innovations in a way that can be able to address the polycrisis and not perpetuate it. I think another aspect that is also important to address is our mindsets and values, that it's important to have regenerative mindsets and values in a way that can address the polycrisis. Because if we continue doing or making decisions or doing what we've been doing, we cannot expect to have different results. Another aspect that we also need to look at is evaluation, incorporating or enhancing disciplines, which means we include systems thinking, AI, and also future fit evaluation approaches. The last cluster speaks of skilled evaluator availability. So we're saying that in the next 10 years, there will be adequate availability of evaluators who are skilled in different contexts. So whether we're talking about geographical location or whether we're talking about the various disciplines, whether we're talking about gender or economic development, we are saying that in the next 10 years, we're able to have adequate skill evaluators in the different contexts. I'm now going to hand over to Andrelisa, who will take us through Horizon 2.
Hi, everybody. Ian Goldman's going to be advancing my slides for me and keeping me on time. Thank you. So Horizon 2 is how we get from the current to the aspired alternative future. And just to acknowledge that there's also a Horizon 0, which is the origin story of Horizon 1, how we got there. And to be cognizant that what we do in the next 10 years in Horizon 2 and in partnership, including through the Global Evaluation Agenda, the Eval for Action initiatives, and all of the initiatives that everybody on this meeting is also currently involved in, we're actually setting the basis of a new Horizon 1. We are creating the origin story of what's next. So the vision for Horizon 2 is to have increasing agency, to have individuals and groups be cultivating our own agency to have greater influence, and for the field to have greater influence on the broader systems. And it's really actually very emotional and moving for me to see who's on this call today and all of the different convergence across fields and disciplines, across generations of evaluators, and to see some of the people who I've been learning from and who are mentors and who have helped, develop the field, participating in continuing to evolve the field today. So thank you for being here. So this map will be guiding us to envision what is even possible. So in the center, you'll see that to get to a place where those who are both producing evaluation and using evaluation are focused on system level change and using a socio-ecological systems lens. And thank you, Beverly Parson. You're here today for helping us to embed this language in our map, along with Nicole Bowman and others. And so how are we exercising leadership and facilitating a vision of what's possible? Part of the post-truth reality right now is a sense of helplessness for some people who are even looking at the institutions and the systems that they've relied on, and realizing that they're not fit for purpose and not seeing a way forward from where we are now. So how are we cultivating groups who can come together and reimagine what's even possible so that a dream can become a plan? And to reposition both the field and the decision making so that it can actually have that fractal, nested, global and local fit for purpose level of decision making being situated among those who are most impacted and who are best informed and positioned to be having that level of influence. So that's where upholding Indigenous sovereignty and also investing in local governance and local participation and self-determination is so important. And in these processes, there is a mindset change, and that's a part of changing the deep systems, is what are the lenses that we're bringing? How are we seeing ourselves and the rest of nature in relationship? And how are we seeing the field in relationship and the potential of the field in relationship to the systems that we're working to change? And so our own competence as individuals and as groups working together, and the assumptions and the lenses that we're applying to make sense of the work that we're doing. And then how can we as a field be both facilitating partnership across sectors, across civil society, government, and private sector, and within each of these sectors? How can we be positioning ourselves to be bringing evidence and processes that can be facilitating useful fit for purpose evidence on economic, social, and environmental impacts, and then be facilitating that learning and that sense making and that decision making across the sectors and across the issues? And then together, how are we using technology and ancient knowledge as well, and lived experience as well? And how are we bringing all of these ways of knowing and all of these groups of knowers, as well as the leading edge technology, together to accomplish this in a way that has never been possible before? And just to note that all of these arrows are showing the reciprocity of each of these aspirations. And so the processes themselves help cultivate the outcomes, and then the outcomes are then enabling new processes. So as we build infrastructure, as we build our lenses and our shared understanding, and as we influence ways of governing, then and practicing, then all of that will help make the Horizon 3 possible. Thank you.
So you've had quite a, I mean, there's a lot to see in those three different maps. And what we want to just do now is to help you to share your own reflections on what came up for you as those things were those maps were flashing by you. So what we want you to actually do now is in Mentimeter, if you can go to menti.com and enter the code 68620182, probably on your phone. You could do it on your computer, but otherwise on your phone. We're just going to ask you a few questions about what came up for you as you were watching these particular maps come through. So just 68620182. Maybe I'm just going, okay, so let's just, I now need to go to Mentimeter. Hang on a second. Okay, and if I just go sharing a second, share. There we go. So that's the code reminder 68620182. And what it does, the overall picture that emerges from these three maps, the Horizon 1 map, the Horizon 3 map, the Horizon 2 map. Does this make a lot of sense? And I'd really like to work on taking this forward. Not so sure about my role, but it does make a lot of sense, or it makes some sense, or it doesn't make much sense. Let's get some feedback. And we have 62 people here. So we're looking for, of which maybe 10 are sort of organizers. So I'm looking for something like 52 responses. So we're at 22 so far. Another 30 or so to come. Has everybody managed to get the code is at the top? If you haven't managed to get in, the code is at the top there, 68620182, menti.com. Okay, so overall, the majority of you saying it makes a lot of sense. And quite a lot of you are feeling that there's an agenda here that you'd like to get involved with on taking it forward. And one of the core messages, as Andrelisa said when she was presenting Horizon 2, is it's not just about others doing, it's about evaluators taking the agency to work on this themselves. And that's what that left-hand column is actually coming up with. 2732. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question. So what struck you in the maps? Okay, and you can write some text here. It's not just a multiple choice. You can write some text. What struck you in whichever maps? Outlay. Maybe somebody could add when they say outlay, what do you mean by that? Maybe add another phrase. Activist systems transformational role for evaluation towards a more just and sustainable world. The relationship of the different horizons. Talking about how we get there, the interlinkages. Possible correlations. Did you mean correlations between the horizons? What correlations were you referring to? Comprehend. You could put that in the chat, or you could add another phrase. This is a journey. The interconnections helps connect the dots, and knowing why to focus. Language and how it incorporates nature and thinking differently. Words like dreaming. Yeah, this point about dreaming, I think, is really important, especially in these times where we're in quite dark times in many ways, but the belief that we can dream together and that we can change the world together. Transition from H1 to H3, the roadmap, interconnectedness, the alignment with global agenda, evaluation agenda 2. And in fact, we use the horizons to provide inputs to the global evaluation agenda 2, so they should be linked. We even did an AI exercise to actually analyze the maps and to analyze the evaluation agenda and to look at the linkages and where they could be strengthened. Culture and context, aspirational, integrative working, interconnectedness and systems thinking, the extent of complexity, absence of identification, commercial nature evaluation, sector clients, TRs themselves. The one comment that I would make myself about the maps too is I think the private sector side of it does not come through strongly. And that's an area that we will be updating these maps, and that's an area we need to be thinking about as to how to enrich that aspect of it. Okay, very thoughtful, aligned with evaluation, Earth Day declaration. Change of personal thinking, power shifts, absolutely. Aspects on Indigenous knowledge and lived experience. Great. Okay, I think this is great. So I'm not actually going to close this now. So if there are more that you want to see, in fact, keep it open, because towards the end of the session we're going to go back to Mentimeter. So you don't need to close it. And if there's more that you want to add on what struck you, you can add that now, and we will capture all the comments that people made. So I'm now going to go back to the PowerPoint, and Zendra's going to take us through what's some of the thinking about how we identify those pockets of the future, the transformational initiatives that we can be building on to take us forward. So Zenda, over to you.
Thank you, Ian, and greetings, everybody. I'm obviously Zenda of Fear. I initiated the Three Horizons initiative and was very pleased when the Academy agreed. I got in contact with this technique when I was working with transformation people, and therefore also was able to bring Ian Kendrick into this exercise. He's a transformation specialist. I mention this simply because I want to thank Ian Goldman, Ian Kendrick, Andrea Lisa, and the other members of the core team for the tremendous work that was put into this. Behind all of this lies a lot of time and real effort to engage to make this as useful for the global evaluation community as possible. I'm also very grateful for the partners who have joined, who see the value in this kind of systematic approach to determining what our future could like and how we may together get there. So my task is simply to help position how we can think about initiatives that have the best chance. Before you show them, Ian, please. It's simply to show what are the characteristics of initiatives that have the best possible chance of contributing to the aspirational future that we see in Horizon 3 without being captured by Horizon 1. It's not right to talk about transformational initiatives very few initiatives are transformational in themselves. We can maybe say that the development of the internet or the mobile phone was transformational. But the point is that we need to increase the chance of identifying initiatives that are able to escape the grip of the current situation and can contribute to the transformation, the aspirational future that we want. In order to identify and prioritize such initiatives, we can identify a set of qualities or characteristics that such initiatives should adhere to. The more of these characteristics, the better, but it can just be one. So there are 13 of these that we've identified. There's no chance to show them all. So I've decided to show 5 with some examples that I made up, although the first one is very much, I would say, very akin to an existing initiative. And now, Ian, we can go on to the first one, please. So the quality or characteristic of an initiative that have potential to contribute to the transformative future we want is one that cause a positive disruption in the dominant systems, in this case, in evaluation, the dominant systems that make evaluation what it is today. It challenges the core assumptions on which we work and the logic and the structures of the dominant system. What is the dominant system? It's all the stuff that we do, the evaluative thinking, but things, and I chose in particular to be a little bit controversial, that part of the dominant system is log frames, the DAC criteria. So an example of this could be that we initiate a cross-continental collaborative led by Indigenous and other historically marginalized communities to redefine evaluation framework based on relational and regenerative worldviews, very much like Eval Indigenous is doing, but then also over time gathering the momentum to replace or at least help reshape the dominant practices that are not helping us to address the polycrisis. The second one, Ian. So the second quality that I decided to highlight is such initiatives will already reflect the values that we want to see in our desirable future. And if you look at the map of Horizon 3, you will see their values, for example, like rights for nature, rights for people, gender, local voice, equity, right? And so an example of initiatives that already reflect those values would be to co-design and pilot evaluative frameworks for planetary well-being based on planetary boundaries, social foundations, and multiple forms of equity, right? I just also want to point out that it's very seldom that doing more of the same and doing something better contributes to transformation. So just be aware of that. It really should reflect some of these qualities. The third one, they target deep reasons for problems, what we often call root causes, rather than symptoms. We will see in development, for example, a vast majority of so-called development initiatives address symptoms rather than the deep causes for problems. And we should look at the evaluation field with the same lens. So an example would be a global fund governed by grassroots organizations, not donors, that finances evaluation work designed and led by communities themselves. And the point here is that the deep reason for problems that remain in our current system that we can't transform to a future where evaluation solidly contributes to transformation is the power in the system, right? And similarly, evaluator-owned cooperatives that only accept contracts aligned with regenerative principles. Many of our initiatives are not focused on sustainability or regenerative work, and that is what we need if we want to see a transformative future that evaluation can contribute to. The fourth one, So they inspire. Another quality or characteristic of such initiative is that they inspire new interactions around boundaries, sectors, disciplines, communities, geographies. And the point is they unite unlikely partners around a shared vision. An example is, for example, a values-based decolonial curriculum for educating evaluators and developing competencies, co-designed with activist movements, youth, global south, cultural experts and educators, and futurists, not just by evaluators, right? It will look very different when all these people come together around a curriculum or training for evaluators, or a network of pilot projects where evaluation is embedded in ecosystems restoration and bioregional planning, designed with frontline communities, with ecological stewards, and they mentor and share across ages, sectors, disciplines, and so on. And then the last one, Ian, is simply that our initiatives, if they want to contribute to be impactful, to contribute to transformative change, they will integrate multiple dimensions of change by addressing systemic issues holistically. So they will really not focus on one narrow technical fix, which we often focus on also in development and in what we do in a particular policy, but they will try to cross environmental, social, economic, cultural, and or technological change, not necessarily all of those, but at least some of those, crossing sectors, crossing thematic areas. So a platform of funders, evaluators, transformation specialists who promote evaluation practice that uses systems thinking and Three Horizons foresight to assess climate adaptation initiatives across these domains, right? Going beyond technical metrics to capture transformative change, equity, long-term resilience in rural and urban systems. So these were some examples that I made up to illustrate these 5 out of 13 qualities. I hope this is helpful as we move forward to the next session. Yes, and you're right, Ada, it is political, should be included there.
So Ian, over to you, hey? You're muted.
Hi, everybody. The reasons that we look at Horizons 1 and 3 is then so that we can focus initially on where are we, Horizon 1. Secondly, where are we trying to get to, the envisioned future, the aspirational future in Horizon 3, to answer the big question, so how are we going to get there? And that's what the next piece is about. We're going to put you into breakout groups quite soon to actually seek your views on this. Next slide, please. Okay, again, please. Oh, yes, just do the build if you would, please. So this is Horizon 2, and each of those boxes that you see, the blue and white boxes, represents a focus area that when we built the maps by taking a lot of different perspectives into account. And as we suggested, the initial maps that we showed you, we've spent a lot of time doing updates on that to bring in things like transgender and indigenous wisdoms and cultures and so on. What we're asking you is to say, look at this map on Horizon 2. This is our suggestion of what we'd like to do to actually bring that Horizon 3 into being. Look at each of the blue and white boxes and think about any initiatives you might know about or even be involved with that actually are helping that transformation to take place within one of those boxes. It could be within one of the bigger boxes or the bigger circle in the middle as well, okay? So ones that you know that perhaps already exist. Next slide, please. And there we go. So what we'd like to do, we're going to split you. It's not 10 groups. It's actually going to be 7 groups. Each group has a facilitator, and the name of the group to which you will be allocated has the number of the group, like number 1, and then the name of the facilitator. So you will know going into the group who your facilitator is. We ask the facilitator to allocate or nominate a note taker for the breakout group to capture on Google Slides, and we'll show you the Google Slides in a second or two, what your outputs actually are. Can you show the Google Slides, Ian, or would you like me to do that? think Ian's doing it. There we go. Okay. So this is what we're looking for from the group work. Now, if we go to the first slide, you will see there the number of the group is 1. Brenda is gonna facilitate group 1. We were going to try and do this by allocating to specific focus areas. This was going to be Spanish speaking in Latin America. However, we've got more people than we thought we would have in the breakout groups, so we're simply going to go for random allocation. 2 is Edda, then Marlene, or is it Marlene or Malina? I'm not sure. For group 3, Hayat in group 4, Sibongile in group 5, Andrew Lisa in group 6, and Scott in group 7. So we're going to allocate you randomly to there. And that will be done as soon as this slide deck is finished. Next one, please, Ian. And then what we do, as we said, is allocate a note taker to capture on these Google slides. These Google slides that you can actually see here right now, these are the actual slides. Introduce yourself in the chat. There's likely to be, looking at the current numbers, 6 or 7 in each group right now, is what it looks like. And then discuss what initiatives do you know of that have the potential to be transformative within those focus areas. And as a guide, use the framing that Zenda has provided for us to say, well, I know one that allocate, as Zenda said, even if they're only addressing one of those 5 issues, that may make them a candidate to actually be an H2 plus initiative. So use that and then capture those on Google Slides. And if you can, please give us the name, the reason why you think this is transformative, and hopefully if you can, a web link or an email for the existing initiatives that we want you to allocate. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to do it in breakouts. Here's what the form actually looks like. So we ask you in the first column to put the name of the initiative, and then a 1-sentence description of why it's transformative. It's addressing this in this way, so things like that. Or it might be that you want to allocate in there 1 or more of the 5 qualities that Zenda introduced to us about what makes an initiative potentially transformative. Link it to a particular H2 cluster. You've got the blue and white box. The white little box at the top is the title of the cluster. Please use that to indicate which one it is. If there's a website, if there's a contact email. That's what we're asking you to do. So that's group 1. And if you go down, Ian, if you will, please, you'll then see there's group 2, there's group 3, group 4, and so on. Okay? So that's where we're going. And then back to the slide deck, I think, Ian. If you could. And we've got people still coming in. There we go. And then what we'll ask you to do when we come back into a plenary session after the breakout groups ends, what we'll be doing then is asking each of the note takers, remember we want the facilitator or the group to allocate a note taker to take notes of just those brief issues, and then pick one of the initiatives, one example from the initiatives you put forward, and spend 1 minute telling us about that. We're saying 1 minute. We might be able to do 1.5 minutes because we were planning for 10, so 7 would give you 10.5 minutes, so that we can actually share those and see what we've got. And then we will tell you what we're going to do with that information that you give us later in the presentation right now. I think it's back to you, Ian, at that point.
So I think it's for you. So we will just share the link to the Google Slides.
Yeah.
We're going to share that in the chat now. So everybody's got that link. You can go into the Google Slides, and you have to obviously choose the group that you know, when you're allocated to groups, it's random. So you'll only realize when you're in the group. Go to the group that you've been allocated. So if you're in group 5, don't start writing into group 2, write into group 5. And you can contribute the you know, what you've come up with in the group. So Ian, it's over to you to break people into groups, I think, eh?
Yep, if we could just have a quick review of the length of the breakout groups in terms of time, because we needed to do that depending on how much time we have left in the call right now.
So
what do we think? We were thinking 20 minutes, I think, but that might be too long.
So I think we need it to be, it's going to have to be 10 minutes, actually.
10 minutes. Okay, so we'll kick off for 10 minutes. I will send a message out when there's 2 minutes and then 1 minute to go, so you know that the end's coming, okay, as it were, if that's okay. Okay to start now? We all okay to go? Thumbs up. Yep, looks like we're all good. Here we go. Sorry, folks, it hasn't allocated them the way I thought it would do. I'm not quite sure why that is. I need to find out why that is. The rooms are all open now, and you can choose which room you go to. We could do it that way. I wanted to do it randomly so they ended up with roughly the same numbers of people. But it looks like people are selecting which rooms they want to go to. That looks like it. I think that's what's happening. Yeah. I'm just going to allocate people if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I just wonder, this is maybe taking too long. Should we
Yeah.
just do this in plenary? I think we may have to just deal with this in plenary.
Yeah, yeah. It should do a random allocation. That's the normal facility, but it doesn't seem to be there for some reason. I don't know why.
We're a bit over on time, and I think it's going to
Yeah.
take us too long to get going. So let's just
Okay.
deal with it and maybe taking and you could share the Google Slides, and we just take one group's slides to work on.
Sure.
I can share. Yeah.
No, please.
I'd like to just jump in and annotate that this type of good-natured, agile adaptability is the kind of experience that I've had for over a year working on this project, figuring things out. And for many of us who didn't grow up with a lot of this technology, it's actually been an extremely supportive environment. I just wanted to point out that this is the vibe that I think is actually helpful for us to try new things and make it a safe and welcoming experience.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe just to get things kicked off, and hopefully to model it, when I look at the Three Horizons 2 map and I see technology on the left there, what comes to my mind as an example of a group is the Merle-Tech initiative, which I'm sure a lot of people are aware of, because I think they're doing a lot of innovative work in the data science and AI area. So I just put their website in the chat. And by the way, my name's Scott Chaplow. And maybe for the next people that unmute and speak, they can say their name, give a brief description like I just did, and then put in the chat any contact information for the initiative they're raising.
Should I give a little example that I think illustrates this too? A very small example, but a very important example. And I think we have somebody here from MSF, from Médecins Sans Frontières. But when there was the outbreak of Ebola in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the first initiative that they were going to do was to completely isolate people. And that means that there would be a huge, huge problem for the community if they were losing contact with people and losing the community spirit, etc. And so the MSF team that was there on site quickly realized this and actually changed their approach completely overnight and involved the community in how to go ahead and what should be done and how would they go about dealing with this outbreak. And the isolation idea was put aside because the reaction of the community was to actually start burning facilities, etc., in rage about the way it was being done. And so it completely adapted and took on the community and let the community lead the way for how the whole epidemic should be handled in that particular part.
Apologize, Ian. Ian, I'm not sure if this is the group one or how is it
We've gone back. We've gone back to full plenary. Believe you me, this is not group one. So what we decided to do, because we tried to allocate the rooms randomly, and for some reason or other, that option wasn't available today in this Zoom call. I don't know why. So we decided to come out and just work on the slide. Ian, it says that you're screen sharing, but I can't actually see the screen share.
So we are back in group one.
Yes, we're all in working group one, effectively. Yes, all of us in the call right now.
Okay.
Can I make a suggestion? Maybe show the Horizon 2 map now, and then maybe somebody can, on the side, take notes, and people could introduce themselves. And if they have an initiative that's inspired by the Horizon 2 map, they can speak to it and provide in chat the website or our email for the particular initiative.
Can I just check people are able to see the Horizon 2, because Ian was saying he couldn't see it?
Yes, we
Ian,
can.
It's visible.
Yes, Ian, if you can make it full screen, I
Now
think
I
it would
see
be
it.
easier.
Now I see it. Yeah.
It's not full screen.
It's not full screen because so that that can actually add text in here if I want to.
Okay.
There's several hands showing, Ian, who want to make some suggestions here.
How about we start with you, Hayat? It looks to me like you were first up with your hand from what I'm seeing on my screen.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So I'm Hayat Askar, independent evaluation consultant from Jordan and representing the European Evaluation Society and friend for the Academy. While I'm not sure how the 5 criteria are reflected here, but when looking into the new measures of well-being, I directly thought of an initiative that was created, very small initiatives on well-being created by Libby Smith. It was like applying the photo voice. It's called Awaken. It's applying the photo voice practice, that is an evaluation tool, into daily practice for some period of time. So she did that in spring, for example, to help you as an evaluator, using an evaluator tool to get refreshed and to try to improve your well-being by doing that tool. I think that was, for me, that was inspiring, and it was also reassuring of the tool that we use into the real life. Yeah, just wanted to mention that, and they can add some reference to that in the website later. Thank you.
Thank you, Hayat. I think it goes to Kristen now. If you can join us, Kristen. Hi.
Hi, thank you. Well, actually, I'm not sure it's an initiative, but it's actually something that we are trying to explore more within the Stockholm Evaluation Unit of Doctors Without Borders. And it's about giving more space to the evaluators we work with to actually suggest what are the best criteria, at least, if they have to choose evaluation criteria, instead of being very prescriptive in terms of reference, so that we try to keep them as open as possible. The challenge we see is that we keep falling back very often into the usual OECD DAC criteria, like the dominant framework. So we really struggle. But with some evaluators, we actually managed to explore, which leads to, I think, working on quite some different boxes in the Horizon 2. And another thing is to try to change a bit the language that we've been using in terms of describing an evaluation process from the start to the end, moving away from reporting only, focusing on learning during the process. But this as well is challenging many times because a lot of organizations requesting evaluations are still expecting reports at the end. I just wanted to share our experience and what we try to do.
Thank you. And I think we now go to Carlisle.
Greetings, I'm Carlisle Levine, and together with my colleague Hippolyte Pohl, we've begun the Strengthening Evaluation Contracting Partnerships Initiative. It was originally called the Equity and Evaluation Contracting Initiative, but changed the name given the times. And it might seem like a micro thing, but it turns out to be very large for us. And that is that if we want to better understand how people on the receiving end of assistance are experiencing that assistance, we're probably best placed to work with evaluators who are proximate to those people, whether geographically, demographically, thematically. And they often work in small firms because the small firms are the ones that have the most flexibility in terms, or might have the most flexibility in terms of understanding these realities. And yet we find that with evaluation commissioners, their processes for selection and contracting often favor larger evaluation firms. And that means that the folks with this expertise have fewer opportunities to have real partnerships with evaluation commissioners who are asking these questions. So our initiative is aimed at working with evaluation commissioners and also with larger firms that partner with other firms on how they select and partner with small solo proximate evaluation firms so that those can be true partnerships and so that those evaluators can share their expertise. We're trying to build a coalition with a number of organizations all working that same direction, and would welcome working with you all as well. We're building our website. I will put our email address in the chat.
Thank you. Okay. At the moment, we don't have any other hands up. I'm wondering if we could just go back and look at Horizon 2 map, please, Ian, if we could on screen. That would be helpful. Thank you. So if we look here, what we've got at the top is we need to transform values, mindsets, and competencies. At the bottom, sorry, we should transform values, mindsets, and competencies, and how we're going to go about doing that. At the top, we need to reposition evaluation practice to strengthen transformational awareness. And I'm wondering whether we know about any initiatives that we can see in civil society, in government or private sector. Anything that we might know about that it might actually help to do that. And similarly on the left-hand side, how are we going to strengthen practice using systems approaches? Now, for instance, within the International Evaluation Academy, we've started a systems thinking group because systems thinking allied to evaluation thinking seems to be a very powerful combination, and we needed more on systems thinking. So we've actually started a systems thinking group in the Academy itself to help specifically with that. But how are we going to strengthen the use of technology? And how are we going to look at bringing forward rights, gender, and local voices? What initiatives do we know about that might be helping with that? Holistic system and foresight, about foresight. And boundary spanning collaboration, where we're actually starting to work together across different boundaries, either geographically or by topic. And what active groups can we see, and so on. So I'm thinking about what might we think that we can see in those kinds of areas that might be helpful, that we can point at right now and say, you know what, that's actually doing the work of actually bringing forward the journey from Horizon 1 to Horizon 3. Ada has got a hand up. Thank you, Ada.
Thanks very much, Ian. I would like to share with you that together with ideas, together with UNICEF, DEVAL, which is the German Institute for Development Evaluation, then the Finnish Ministry for Foreign Affairs, we have developed and recently launched the second edition of a guidebook on country-led evaluation of the 2030 agenda. There we include examples of country-led evaluations that have influenced policy decision-making and have brought about some important changes that some of them can be really transformative and or be in the process to lead into transformational change and some other level of changes. So we highlighted the importance of country-led evaluations as a form, not the only form, but country-led with participation of civil society, academia, BOPES, parliamentarians, and others actors as a way to dealing with participatory country-led evaluations where also moves away from the donor-driven funding type of evaluation. But what we are promoting is a kind of a coalition where everybody has a role. For example, the international cooperation had a role in these country-led evaluations, but not determining how the evaluations should be designed, planned, and implemented, but more an advisory role and also supporting this initiative to sometimes to some funding. So there is a role for everyone, and especially the examples on how these evaluations have led to influence decision making is important. So what I want to highlight, and I will finish with this, is I'm interested, and ideas is interesting, and on looking at the influence of these initiatives, how evaluations have come with evidence and with policy dialogues and other processes that have led to actually influence decision making and therefore changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ada. That's great. And Michael, hello. Oh, where's he gone? Michael couldn't patent had his hand up. There, nope. Where are you?
Greetings, everyone. Thank you, Ian.
There you are.
At the Global Evaluation Summit in Sri Lanka a month ago, with Ada and others, Ideas, IOCE, the Academy, Eval Partners, we discussed using the opportunity of the SDGs coming to an end and mostly unlikely to be attained as a opportunity to together begin to extract lessons about the nature of the SDG process. There are various groups that are assigned measuring the SDGs and reporting on those, but it's not too early to begin extracting lessons about what role the SDGs played in evaluation, in development, in order to influence whatever is going to come after 2030. So that now is the time to examine the SDG process, how it was implemented, what's worked and not worked, and what it says about what the next phase of development and evaluation's role in that might be. The other thing I would add, in Zinda's last example, it included attention to resilience. And I'm working with a number of international development clients right now where resilience is the front and center criterion. Because of the shocks to the system that political and budgetary, one of the ways of creating a crack around the DAC criteria is that the DAC criteria sustainability is really continuity. It's business as usual. It's things continuing. That's not a viable criterion today. And so resilience is an entree into how to understand the ways in which resilience is manifest everywhere from individual participants to organizations and programs, and to make resilience a meaningful evaluation criterion, which is systems related and acknowledging a turbulent, unpredictable polycrisis world. So coming together around spotlighting resilience is a way to break forward into a different way of understanding how the world works.
Thank you, Michael. Now, very conscious of time. We've got roughly 5 minutes left to go. Marlene wants to come in, and then we'll go on to where do we go from here and summarize the call. Marlene, over to you.
Yeah, just quickly, I just wanted to mention that I'm from the board of the European Evaluation Society, member of the board, and recently we had a series of events looking at foresight, and one impressive one is Sitra, which is the Finnish Innovation Fund, where foresight is in their evaluation framework now, which means that foresight methods are used in strategic planning, in designing evaluations and looking at the beginning, the design up to the end, in the recommendations, etc. So it also assesses the relevance and timeliness of the strategic choices that are being made by the fund, and looks at the future phenomena and strengthens futures-oriented approaches. So that's Citra.
Thank you, Marlene. I really appreciate that. Now then, Doa, you've got your hand up. If we could go to you quickly, that'd be great.
Okay, hello everyone. I'll just talk about quickly about an initiative that I've been working on. It's building the capacity building in 360 project cycle and evaluation. And it is a collaborative work between the private sector and NGOs and the government sector and academic institutions to build a program, a diploma program, which is accredited in the full cycle of project appraisal, M&E, and impact evaluation. In order to transform the country, and it is a regional program as well, in the area of preparation and implementation of development projects. This is for the and as well to have some common dictionary for all speakers of project management and evaluation.
Thank you, Doha. That's great. Okay, so we've got some suggestions here of initiatives that we can see that might actually help us towards that transformation towards Horizon 3. I'd like to hand it back to Ian, I think, if I recall correctly, to talk about what the next steps are, also to get your view on Mentimeter, and then to close from Khalil. Ian, are you there?
Yep. Yeah, so let me just go back to the PowerPoint. Hang on a second. There we go. Okay. Go back to... Right. So in terms of next steps, we will share the maps and presentation with you and invite you to keep identifying H2+ initiatives and sharing these with us. We'll create a place for you to be able to do that. We will also be sharing something which is called a story map, which allows you to interact with the maps and move backwards and forwards across the maps and play with them. And we'll share that on the website, which will help a lot, I think, in making them more accessible. The European Evaluation Society is going to be running training on 3 Horizons, which will draw from some of this experience, which Ian and Zenda will be doing probably the second week of September. And then we want to use these initiatives as a foundation for how we will take this transformation systems work forward. And we're actually, I mean, this session today has been a collaboration between a whole range of partners, and we will hopefully meet with them the third week of July to plan how we're going to do that. And we'll use that to build collaboratively a series of work packages. So for example, Ian talked about the systems evaluation of systems work that the Academy started. Well, maybe this will end up a collaborative, in fact, it's already collaborative with EES. We'll end up collaborating with a number of agencies on how do we take some of these content areas that come up in the maps forward and build the in-depth understanding of what we can do there. And as part of that, the Academy is also taking forward a special edition of the Journal of Multidisciplinary Evaluation. Scott Chaplo's leading the editorial team on that. And we're using that to test the thinking of what's coming from the Three Horizons and elaborate in depth how these different areas can be taken forward. So we on the one hand, developing our conceptual thinking, at the same time, moving into action learning mode to see how we can test out models, try things out, etc., prototype things. We'll continue to refresh the maps and evolve them as a living exercise that responds to the changing environment and as our thinking evolves. I mentioned we hope to meet the week of the 21st of July, all the partners that are behind this call. And of course, there are also future opportunities like perhaps the APPEAR conference in November, which will provide opportunities to take the work forward. So, and we would welcome any suggestions from any of you on how you think we can collaboratively take this work forward. And with that, I'd like to hand back to, well, no, first of all, if you can just go back to the Mentimeter, okay? If you just go back to the Mentimeter and just, if you can just take a couple of minutes. Let's find my Mentimeter. Where's the Mentimeter gone? So if you just go back to the same Mentimeter you were on and just add in there. So hang on a minute, let me get that. Too many things open. It's not there, it's the other one. Okay. So if you go back to the Mentimeter, I will share it now. Okay, so we now want to move on. How are you feeling about taking this agenda forward? Apologies, we're going to end up 5 minutes late on the call. So how are you feeling about taking this agenda forward? The sort of agenda that comes out of Horizon 2, trying to work collaboratively, building on the initiatives which are emerging. What could we be doing? How do you feel about this? Exciting but challenging? Hopeful? Optimistic? Necessary? Any more? Inspired? Challenged? Positive? Humanitarian? Globe saving? We'll press it on. Timely, yeah. Okay, so I mean that's positive. The one thing I'll just say, just very personally, is for me, you know, as I mentioned, we are in very difficult times. There are many aspects which are dark, and this is an example of a way that we can work in a collaborative way together with a regenerative mindset, taking us forward towards a future that we can feel inspired about, and where we support each other to keep our own health and to try and promote the health of the planet. So that's great input, and we will share all these inputs. And the last thing I'd just like to invite you to do is if you would be interested to collaborate further, please enter your name, your organization, and email. So and you know we will seek to follow up. Now I'm going to leave this open so you can carry on with this. We're not going to display it now. I'll stop displaying, but it's open there for you to share. And with that, I'd like to hand back to Khalil and the key role that Eval Partners plays, the tremendous work of Eval Agenda, and how we bring this work together to have the advocacy, but also the depth. Khalil, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Ian, and thanks to all presenters, group facilitator with the ISAL approach as well, and all participants, and for your sharing. I thought that went very well. We had a lot of really positive feedback as well. I see the positive feedback from the colleagues about this approach. You know, if we can bring it to really maybe something that resonates with many of you. We have been speaking in the field about transformation and transformative evaluation for more than 10 years, even more. And often that evaluators say, what is that exactly? Okay, we like the idea, but what is that? We're a little bit confused. There are a lot of things. Here, an initiative that has a good response to this, but not about the response, it's about taking this forward in concrete ways. Yes, it is intellectual work. Yes, it is smart, and sometimes it feels complex, but essentially it will help us in some of the most important challenges we face as evaluators. For example, the example just Michael Kubbatan has given with the criteria that we base our evaluations on. Maybe this approach can be helpful for that. So I really think it is also important aspect, and with us in such webinars and such work, that they are familiar about this. There is 169 evaluation associations that we would very happy to reach out, also in IEC and eval partners, those who work on the ground, who are doing things, but sometimes maybe not in these circles or in discussions, but I know that the academy, and we will support them, also trying to reach. Hence, these two webinars, different time zones, different regions, different languages. You see the inclusivity of it, how important it is. And as I represent IUC and eval partners with a strong affiliation to the academy as well, we fully supportive of the academy's work on the 3 horizons, feel it's very important, fully aligns with the global evaluation agenda, and it has, you know, important work on the vast potential for evaluation to be part of the solution, not part of the problem, as it has been at sometimes. You know, we have to admit for that, and it really extends to the present and the future. Our world is facing immense challenges. Many of the speakers mentioned that we have a lot of emergencies, and at the same time we have opportunities. I really feel so. And social and environmental justice should be our guiding principles and North Star. And this document, this work, this effort, this project really focuses on that, doesn't pay attention to social aspect, not environmental aspect. This is why it appeals to us in eval partners and IUC. It's really comprehensive, and collaboration finally among us all in the evaluation field with actors also from other fields that we really have to reach out. I know the academy is doing this, and we are also doing that. Let's approach to other people who are also not with us. This is the beginning, as mentioned in the beginning of the webinar. This is the beginning of significant collaborative work together. And I invite all who joined us today to join this. I would call it, even the organizers didn't call it this, but it's a movement, really. And to enrich with your experience, background, aspects that appeal to you in the approach. It doesn't have to be that everything you buy in. Maybe some aspect you work with it. That's fine. We would appreciate that. We need all to work together in order to achieve things. We don't know how we will achieve, if we will achieve them, but let's at least try to work together, have common language, and understand that there's, yes, differences nationally and individually, but we can have a goal together. Thank you so much. And just, I would conclude, perhaps, if our host, very kind host, Innocent and Eval4Earth, have anything final before we end the webinar, and thank all of you and say see you later rather than goodbye. Innocent, anything from you?
Nothing from my end. I think you've said it all. Just to thank all the presenters and all the partners, and just say this is not the last, but it's a continuation. And I hope we have many sessions alike in the future. And also maybe glad to say, you know, for in case there are some who want to join us tomorrow, we'll be having also another session. In case today it was not enough, you want to hear more, please do join us again tomorrow. I'll be pasting the links tomorrow, right now in the chat. Please do join us, and thank you, and over to you, Carl.
Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye, and thank you for staying 9 minutes after the time. Much appreciated. Have a nice rest of the day or evening, or some of you night as well. Bye.
Thanks. And if the core team could just stay behind so we discuss the session tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so I will stop recording now.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, do that.